The world of Islam is a very vast world and often complex for those who don't practice the faith and even for those who do. Although the notion that there is just one Islam is held by a large portion of the Muslim community, there's still varying beliefs about what true Islam actually is. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of FTD Facts. My name is Leroy Kenton, and in this episode I'll be sharing 10 branches of Islam that exist. But before I jump into that, leave a like on this episode if you love learning. Also, if this is your first time here to FTD Facts, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you don't miss any of our future episodes. Alright, starting at number 10, we have the Sunnis. So 85% of the Muslim world are Sunnis, so they make up the majority, clearly. And Sunnis consider themselves to be the guardians of Islamic orthodoxy and tradition based on what the Prophet Muhammad established, as well as his 4 rightly guided caliphs. The source of the religion and the legal authority are the Quran and the Hadith, and then there's analogy or qiyas and consensus, which is ijma, that's used to resolve certain problems and disputes of matters that may rise that may not be explicitly mentioned in the Quran or the Hadith. And under Sharia, they believe that both individual as well as communal life should be guided by Sharia. The next branch we're looking at is Shia. Shia, or the Shiites, they began as a political dispute over the leadership of Islam. And they considered Ali, who was a cousin of the Prophet Muhammad, as the first legitimate successor to the Prophet Muhammad. And that's when we had Shia Ali, which is the party of Ali. And Shiites believe that the revelation ended with the Prophet Muhammad and the Quran. However, they also consider there to be a tradition of imams who were given supernatural powers to interpret the Sharia. The teachings of the imams are considered infallible, by the way. And now Shias are generally synonymous with the term seveners because they believe that there was a series of 7 imams that succeeded the martyrdom of Hussein, which was Ali's youngest son. Shias also have traditionally believed in the existence of a Mahdi, which is sort of like a messiah figure who will one day appear to restore the purity of all of Islam. Currently, Shias make up the majority in modern Iran, as well as they make up an influential minority in Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Pakistan, and Iraq. Branch at number 8 are the Kharijites. And now the Kharijite means those who defected from the group. And now they were members of the earliest sect in Islam that left the followers of Ali, who was a cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad. Now, the 3rd Caliph, Uthman, was killed in the year 656 AD, and the struggle for succession followed between Ali and Muawiyah, the governor of Damascus. Now, the Kharijites left the followers of Ali, who are the Shias, and the Kharijites rejected the firstborn succession of the Quraysh, which was a tribe of the Prophet Muhammad, and they assert that the leadership of Islam, which is known as the Caliphate, should be designated by an imam that's elected by the community from among candidates who possess spiritual and other important personal qualities. Next up, let's talk about the Ibadi. Now, this is a school of Islam that's dominant in Oman, and although Ibadism is often described as conservative, it is considered to be a tolerant sect of Islam, which puts a lot of emphasis on the rule of the just, and it rejects violence as a means to political ends. Now, Oman is the only country in the Muslim world that has an Ibadi majority population. Now, the roots of Ibadism go all the way back to the 7th century, 20 years after the Prophet Muhammad's death in 632. One thing to note about Ibadis is that they can trace their origins also back to the Kharijites, who came into existence during the first Islamic civil war between 656 and 661. The Kharijites, by the way, were the earliest Islamic sect who came about as a result of the religio-political controversy over the Caliphate. But this offshoot of the Kharijites, the Ibadi, they believe that the Muslim community can rule itself without a single leader. Ibadis also differ in that they do not agree that a Muslim leader must be a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad's tribe. In theology, Ibadis reject a literal interpretation of all human-like descriptions of God, denying even the possibility of seeing God in this life or even in the afterlife. Next up, we have the Sufis. Sufism is an Arabic word called tasawwuf, and the word means made of wool, and that refers to the coarse wool garments that were worn by the earlier Muslim mystics as a symbol of poverty and a rejection of worldly pleasures. Sufism is defined as Islamic mysticism, and Sufism is less of a doctrine or belief system than it is an experience and way of life. It is a tradition of enlightenment that carries the essential truth forward throughout time. Now, this tradition, however, must be conceived in a vital and dynamic sense. Now, its expression must not remain limited to the religious and cultural forms of the past. The truth of Sufism requires reformation and fresh expression in every single age. Now, research has shown that only 5% of the total Muslim population in the world follow Sufism. Halfway in at number 5, we have the Ahmadiyya. Now, many Muslims protest that they are not even Muslims at all. But for the sake of this video, I included them because they do identify as Islam. Now, the Ahmadi Muslim Jamaat, or the AMJ, is a growing international revival movement within Islam. It was founded back in the year 1889, and the AMJ is the only Islamic organization to believe that the long-awaited Messiah has actually come in the person of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who was born in 1835 and lived up until the year 1908, and he was from Kadian, India. Now, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad claimed to have been divinely appointed as both the promised Mahdi, the guided one, and the Messiah expected by Muslims to appear towards the end of time. Ahmadis believe that God sent Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, like Jesus, to end religious wars, condemn bloodshed, and reinstitute morality, justice, and peace in the world. So with that, followers of Ahmadiyya do not recognize the Prophet Muhammad as the last prophet. The largest concentration of Ahmadiyya Muslims are in West and Eastern Africa, Indonesia, as well as South Asia. Now let's take a look at Wahhabism. Now this is a conservative movement within Islam's Sunni branch, and it's named after its founder, theologian Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, who was born in the 18th century in what is now Saudi Arabia. Wahhab advocated a return to a purer form of Islam, focusing on its origins and the absolute sovereignty of God. So that means they reject all the cults of saints, as well as they forbid tobacco, alcohol, and shaving. And their mosques are very plain and simple, as well as their public prayer attendance is heavily enforced. Now, the term Wahhabism is often seen as derogatory because followers were first called out by people that didn't agree with them. So many of them prefer to be called Salafis, which is in reference to Salaf, which was the first, second, and third generation of the people that lived at the time of the Prophet Muhammad. Only 3 left, and at number 3 we have Quranism. And the word Quranism describes a branch of Islam where the Quran is accepted as a revelation from God, but the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, as well as the entire collection of the Hadith, are completely rejected. So those who share this belief are known as Quranists. And the doctrine that the Quranists follow states that the message in the Quran is clear and complete, so it can be understood without looking for external references like the Sunnah or the Hadith to clear up any sort of misunderstanding that may be in the Quran. Now, Islamic scholars actually condemn this belief, and they point to the fact that the Quran commands Muslims to follow the example or the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. And many scholars add that without the Hadith literature, many Islamic concepts would just be completely abstract and not have any real substance to them. For example, in the Hadith, you find how to pray and fast, as well as the obligatory giving, how to conduct that, and also how to make the pilgrimage to Mecca, which are all parts of the 5 pillars of Islam. Mahdavis come at number 2. Mahdavis believe in the oneness of Allah as well as the prophethood of Muhammad as the last messenger of Allah. And they also consider the Quran to be their holy book. Now, they strictly follow the 5 pillars of Islam. They follow the Sunnah tradition and Sharia while having high respect and reverence for the house of the Prophet Muhammad and his immediate offspring. Now, if you're not familiar with the term Mahdavism, it's also known as Zikri in Pakistan, if you're familiar with that term. Well, anyways, it's a Muslim sect that was founded by Sayyid Muhammad Janpuri, who was born in India in the late 15th century. Now, Sayyid Muhammad declared himself to be the Imam Mahdi at the holy city of Mecca in front of the Kaaba in 1496 and is revered as such by the Mahdaviya community throughout the entire world. Now, Zikri Mahdavis can be found predominantly in the Baluchistan province of Pakistan. And finally, at number 1, we have the Nation of Islam. This was founded in Detroit in 1930 by Wallace Fard, who proclaimed a revelation for the African Americans that their salvation would come through self-knowledge by which they would recover a sense of their own history. Now, Elijah Muhammad was Fard's successor after Fard's mysterious disappearance back in the year 1934. Elijah Muhammad taught that Fard was an incarnation of Allah, and he commanded that other blacks who followed the movement were to withdraw from white society and create their own institutions, start up their own businesses. And now the traditional teachings of the Nation of Islam include the belief that humanity was originally black and that the white race was created by a black scientist named Yaqub, who had rebelled against Allah. They also consider Christianity to be a danger because it's a religion of Western culture. Now, followers of the Nation of Islam, they stick to a strict lifestyle of praying 5 times a day. They abstain from alcohol, tobacco, as well as other drugs. They try to have a pure and simple diet as much as possible, among other practices. Now, the prominent members of the Nation of Islam include Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. All right, guys, so that was a brief overview of 10 surprising branches of Islam that actually exist. I know I said a lot and I covered a ton of information, but now it's time for me to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts about even the term branches of Islam? Do you believe that that even makes any sense? Do branches actually exist? Or what are your thoughts about any of the branches that I mentioned in this episode? Sound off down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. All right, guys, so that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining me here on FTD Facts. I'm gonna leave you with a video that I definitely don't want you to miss. It's gonna be coming up right now. So I'm gonna get out of here. Gotta go work on some more videos, and I'll see you guys next time.